Hey guys, Eric with Retro Rides again. We got ourselves a 71, I believe, Pontiac GT 37. So different trim lines, not a Judge, it's not a Le Mans, it's the GT 37. So apparently not many of these were made. Customers had this for a very long time and it's been stalled for the better part of 30 years and knocked the dust off it, brought it to us. So what we found, there's a bunch of rust in the quarters and some previous bodywork that needs to be addressed. So he bought a full quarter panel for this car, full driver's side. The passenger seems to be fine. We're going to dive into it, make sure we don't find anything weird in there. But our main object for this car, for this customer, is get all the sheet metal aligned as best we can, factory gap, all that kind of stuff. We're not going to weld up gaps on it yet. But we are going to put a new quarter panel on it, so we will clean that back up, do all the factory lead lines and spot welds and all that stuff. So try to get this car nice and solid, and it's passing off to a good buddy of ours to get body worked and painted and down the road. It's time to get this car on the road. He wants to drive it. It's not a show car, but he wants to go cruising. So we're going to make it happen. We're going to dive in soon. Stay tuned.
So basically what he came in for is to replace the the left rear quarter of the car. But in order to cut out the old quarter and put the new quarter in, we really need to line up all of the sheet metal, line up the doors, line up the trunk, line up the hood. So what I've started with this morning is I've started with the driver door just to hang that really nice, get the gaps on that door, put the weather strip on so it closes, opens and closes really nice. I've got nice gaps on the back side of the door here. It opens. These doors are super heavy when you get all of the window in there and all of the hardware in there, and so the door has a tendency to want to sag. So we got this nice and lifted and it just follows along. This is the piece that we will cut out after all the body lines are looking good and solid. And then we'll come out and take out this quarter. We have a brand new one on the back of Wedgie there. But there's really a lot going on with this car as far as making sure that in order to get this piece repaired, we've got to get everything else in line and in order, because once we take this off, things could shift, and we don't want that. So I'm actually waiting for the customer to bring in inner fenders, as I'm sure a lot of you are saying, how can you hang a fender without an inner fender? Well, you can't. So we're getting our inner fenders brought in tomorrow, and then we'll be able to line out the inner fender for the core support, get the right amount of shims if we need any shims underneath the fender to lift or lower the fender. So we got just a nice transition to the door. And the gaps are looking pretty good right now, but I really can't do anything else with this fender till I get the inner fenders. Right now I'm working on the passenger door. That one had some broken bolts in the hinges, and I was able to get those out, welding a nut on the back of the broken bolt and just pulling it out from the inside of the door. What else? Like I said, putting weather stripping on. When I'm done with this door and getting this all squared away, I'm going to move to the back trunk. I've got a weather strip on that too, and I just want to make sure that the trunk has got a nice gap around it as well, since the quarter that we're going to be replacing really needs to match up with those lines. I got all the doors gapped and squared away. I installed the front sheet metal Friday. We can come up front here and take a look, but we got the fenders on, gapped to the doors, and then we threw on the hood and got the hood gapped. So this is all flowing really nice and looking really good. Right now, my chore today is to repair the rear trunk. So the trunk got hit somehow, backed into something, who knows. So right along in here where the latch sits, this was all crinkled and wrinkled and not fitting very well. So I took the piece off that holds the latch system inside, and I'm reforming this face right here. This was all jacked up and dented in. So doing a little bit of hammer and dolly work, some heat work to kind of get it to expand and shrink to where I need it to go. This is starting to come together and look real good. I've just got to roll back this lip right here that the seal fits under. Then I'll put the seal on and I'll get to the trunk door, make sure the latch system works and my gaps are pretty nice around here. And that's going to really be the last project before we start replacing that. So this is going to be pretty extensive. Got a lot of spot welds to cut out. We've got a lead line right there at the roof of the car where it slopes. So the whole quarter on this car, for a reproduction quarter, they actually have a lead line right here and then some spot welds underneath. And then this will all come out. Spot welds around the fender. Those will all get drilled and brought out. And then as it comes to the back, obviously, we've got the inner frame of the car that the fender sits on, and then around the back of the trunk area, and then up the trunk opening, and then through this line here, and then the inside of this back window, spot welds there. So we get all of that out and bring it out in one piece. The car is really solid right now with all the gaps fitting the way they're supposed to and flowing, and everything's flush and looks real good. So really happy with how it's turned out. You know, thank God it's only metal. So I'm just about ready to pull this rear quarter off. I have drilled all the spot welds out and got everything loose. You can see it's a lot of people come in and they cut everything from the inside and then come back and take their flanges and all that, and it's a lot of extra work. I like to try and take it off in one piece if I can. What I will need to be doing is, after this gets off, I have to address any rust issues that is going on with the inner structure. We can treat that, and then I'll come back and I will weld up all of my drill holes from my spot weld mechanism. So all these little holes from the underside, I'm going to re-weld any metal flanges like along the trunk lid here. This here is all going to be filled in, and all those holes will be welded up. Any kind of repair work that I need to do underneath, if it is rusted out, I'll replace those flanges. But we want to have just a really nice base to put the new quarter on. So that's what we do here at the shop. It takes a little bit more time, but what you get in the end is just a solid base to work with, and then a fresh part gets put on that. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm about ready to pull this off. It's definitely getting loose, and I'm just gonna slide it out the back that way, get it off that rear light. And yeah, looking forward to getting this prepped out, and we'll get that quarter fit and start prepping the quarter. Gotta punch spot weld holes, any kind of flanges we need to either fit, trim. It is a repop part, so those always have some issues as far as refitting. That said, we've had really good luck in the past with this manufacturer, so hopefully it'll go smooth and easy. All right, so here's the membrane of the rear quarter. It's actually in really good condition, but what I will do is I'll come back and I'll smooth out all of my spot welds. Somebody back in the day decided to roll this fender up, so they took a cutoff wheel and sliced all of these little sections to roll it up to run bigger tires. So what I want to do is come back, and I'm going to have to repair this whole section, weld it up, get it all nice and smooth, so we have a nice transition of a flange here to put the new fender on, to put the new quarter on. I'll do some work down here. This here is the old part of the inner fender, so I'll clean this out, get this smooth, and then fill in all these spot weld holes that I drilled out, because I want to have a nice smooth flange on that. There's a couple other areas that I will have to repair. This deck here, this transition needs to be nice and smooth and cleaned up, so I'll come back and fill in these holes, get this welded up. So we just want to have a nice transition. This part right here, unfortunately, it should be attached. This is a part of the inner top of the box for the trunk lid, so I'm going to have to work on that, get that fixed, get this straightened out. This whole section back here, I'm going to probably have to cut this off and put in a whole new piece here, but this flange is all rusted out and it's just not really salvageable. So I want to make sure that this is nice, because I'm going to be welding the new quarter panel underneath here to get it nice and tight and buttoned up. Looks like we've got quite a bit of rust here as well on this section here, so I'll probably make a new part, tack that in, get that all welded up, clean out all the old whatever's in here, and get this thing kind of running and squared away. Clean off all the old seam seal. We want to just have a nice fresh start, and then what we'll do is we'll probably epoxy this whole section once I get to a point of where it's ready to be replaced with the new part. But we'll come back and we will epoxy all of this just so it inhibits any kind of rust or moisture damage in the future. It's a big job, but it's going to look really nice. I have the new quarter back here if we want to take a look at it. But this is the section that we're going to replace. We're going to put this whole piece right back on that car. So we'll have to come in and we'll have to pop spot weld holes to get that welded in. There's an inner membrane here on this hole here. We're going to pop holes here so that we can spot weld that section in. And then all along the fender, along the bottom, and on the back flanges. So once those goes on, and then you just from up top, you'll be able to spot weld it and get it all stationary. We'll hold it all together with Clecos and sort all of that out. But that's where we're at. Mike came in yesterday. I was really happy with the progress that we made. Yesterday I finished cleaning up all the flanges and getting them solid. And now we are fitting the new quarter. Basically want to fit just to see how it lines up with the lines. Want to see, I did some repair back in this rear quarter, so I want to make sure that my distance and ratios are allowing this to be as far forward as it needs to be. Got a couple of issues, which is typical for aftermarket stamping, especially with a piece this big. It's not going to be perfect. So right now I have Preston helping me just fit this, rolling, just seeing where we are with this whole fit. We've got some roof issues as far as just the stamping on the roof of the quarter section. The upper quarter section is just a little shallow, and so trying to roll the quarter up while keeping all the lines in tune with what's going on up front. We've got some issues with the stamping here that we have to address, and then also with the bottom flange where the quarter sits in the door. So we are going back and forth and trying to get that figured out. I'm actually really pleased with how the fender fits. As I said before in our earlier episodes, this whole wheel well back in the day was pie cut and rolled in. I was able to get the shape out, and then fitting this new fender section on this section here, it fits nice and tight, and it's got a really good grab to it. So I'm pleased with that. But right now, yeah, we're just kind of dealing with the door. We've got some pretty interesting gaps in the door that we're contemplating how we want to bring this door back, match up these gaps. Earlier episodes as well, I gapped the whole car before I took the old quarter off, just so that when we did get to this point, everything on the car is pretty much
that's
lined
okay.
up
I'm
and
still out
square.
good.
Square is a relative term, but for this car, we got it as close as possible. So now we're just fitting this front section, see what I need to do. Really, the next step, the next update is going to be this is going to get all clecoed and fit tight after some adjustments are made in the metal. I've got some rear window issues here that I'm going to have to address as well. We're shy on this window transition to the back of the package tray, just above the trunk. So we need to do some work on that and try to figure out what needs to be done there. I'm actually pleased with how the transition of the quarter to the roof on the top of the window is actually looking pretty good. I would like this quarter to slide up a little bit better and kind of fit in there, but massaging it here and there and getting it to fit as best we can. Yesterday I got the quarter in. We've got my clecos are all set. The quarter fits really nice. Trunk fits really nice. I had some issues with this quarter down on the lower window package tray area. I was able to do some work around that, and we got that lined up really nice. It is flush with the back of the trunk deck. Did some work up here in the roof to make sure that slides up in there really nice. Welded up the fenders that had been pie cut to run larger tires. Got that all welded up. Formed to the inside of the new quarter fender. Right now, we kind of have a predicament with this stamping. I talked about how stamping in the last episode or last update either wear out over time or it can get crooked or twisted. And this stamping here actually is pretty short off the door. We have about a little over 3/4 of an inch gap at the top of the door, and it just runs pretty much down to, really, there's only a good gap down here. What we decided to do, because the front of this quarter is twisted at the bottom, doesn't fit the rocker really well. Normally, if that was just the case, we would just pie cut that, form it, get it fitting really nice. But since we have this big gap on this side of the door here, we decided to go ahead and cut off the old section of the quarter panel from the door section, and we're going to actually weld that in. There's a nice brace that fits in right here, so that's going to keep our metal nice and solid, and we won't have issues there with this dimpling in when we weld it. Of course, we're going to have to be really careful and cool our welds. It'll be a slow process to weld the whole section. I'll show you here. So this is actually we're gonna just set that in just like that and get that set nice in there. That is gonna be here a process. I've got to clean this part up, weld up some of my spot welds that I drilled out the other day, and yeah, just gonna make it work like we always do here at Retro Rides. Nothing is ever bolt-on, but we'll just have a better fit with the door and the section of that panel when we just throw it on there. So that's where I'm at today, just kind of getting ready to weld in the roof section, the back window section, the trunk section, and then I'll start on the bottom and work myself towards the center, or start in the center and work my way out, just depending on how I feel, how things are sitting and not shifting. When I get things solid, I just want to make sure that this panel has a really nice flow to it, and I don't have a lot of twists and things that might inhibit really just the look of the car, the line of the car. We've got a good body line right here, which matches the front of the door and the fender. These doors on these Pontiacs, actually, this line comes up and then totally dives out and disappears. The door is flat to about a third of the door, and then it starts to gradually have a peak and a body line that rolls into it. So we just want to make sure that line is nice and level all the way down the car. So far, the quarter panel really fits good. I didn't have a lot of problems fitting it, or didn't have to trim anything, other than just the door section is really kind of more problematic right now, which we're gonna address. So stay tuned. We'll get some spot welds on this and get some clecals pulled, but it's coming together. Finished up this quarter yesterday, finished up the door jamb, extended part of the top of the door, get a really nice body line. We got a good opening and closing of the door, really nice latch. Did some metal work on that, got that all squared away. Customer came in yesterday and we just went through a real quick punch list, so I'm gonna just be finishing on doing some trimming on this new stamp part. The stamping is off to clear the back part of the bumper bracket, and so I'm gonna be trimming that and getting that squared away. And really the last thing that I'm doing today is just finishing out this fender. Just like the left fender, previous owner had pie cut the fender and rolled it up to run bigger tires. That seems to be the theme on this car. Let's just cut and roll for clearance issues, but I've brought it back out, formed it, shaped it. Now I'm just welding it up, welding up the cuts. So that should be done this morning. Welded up the door. All the body lines look really good. I'm really happy with how things turned out. The customer is really stoked, so he will come back and start the process of putting his car together, getting it ready for body work and paint. This car may come back to this shop with some final assembly things. I know the customer talked about that, but Mike is super happy with his car, and that's what we like to hear at Retro Rides. And yeah. Follow back customers, that's what we like. For new projects, updates, upgrades, those kinds of things. But this one's about ready to go. It should wrap it up here this morning, and then give the customer a call, make arrangements to get this thing back home. Hope you like this from start to finish. All the body panels getting squared up. From that to taking off the rear fender, quarter, putting the new one back on. But yeah, like and subscribe.